Well, hello everyone, this is Joe Drums coming to you. Hope everybody out there is doing great. Again, I'm doing awesome. This video we're going to have a lot of fun with today. I'm going to make a continuation of this video from last video, which we were talking about traits of the greats. And in the last video, if you haven't seen it yet, I urge you to check it out. It's pretty interesting. Basically, I talked about John Bonham, Ringo, and of course Neil Peart. And I talked about different traits that each drummer had, at least a couple of them. So today I'm actually going to be talking about three different drummers, Mitch Mitchell from Jimi Hendrix, and of course Ginger Baker from Cream, and of course Keith Moon, who I actually had a request to do kind of some traits from him as well. So I'm going to be doing Keith Moon actually right now on this drum set, and also Ginger Baker. And then I thought I'd do Mitch Mitchell more on like a Bonham kit, because that's kind of what he played on, which was just a single bass pedal. There were some later on stuff that he did end up playing some double bass as well, but I thought I'd talk about the early days with Mitch Mitchell and do it on the Bonham set. So let's go have some fun with this, and we'll rock out and we'll show you some neat traits from the greats. Here we go. Okay, the first drummer, Keith Moon, he had something very similar to this. In fact, Neil Peart from Rush was a big fan of Keith Moon's, and his set was set up very similar to the way Keith Moon's was back when he was using just the double bass later on. In the early days, The Who was using just a single bass. Keith Moon, that's what he was playing on. But then later on, switched to double bass. And one of the things that I did read, and if you guys know any other neat little trinkets of Keith Moon, send them in. Just, send a comment and let me know what other ones. But I'm just going to nail a couple of the ones that I liked that I thought were really cool. But Keith Moon was very infamous for always wanting to have the most drums out of all the drummers in England. And so he would always kind of find out who was playing on what set and how many drums they had, and he always would go get one more just to be the drummer with the most drums. So obviously Neil Peart was, like I said, was a big fan of his. But one of the things I always remember about Keith Moon, when he would play, he'd always kind of hold his sticks kind of like this as he was playing. And I think part of it was because he had to play quietly. A lot of times when they played on shows and stuff, he had to play quiet because they had to have the song. They were basically pantomiming to the song for most of it. But I know like on the Tommy Smothers or the Smothers Brothers hour, they were on there, and they had to play kind of quiet, so I'm sure he looked like he was just not even hardly tapping on them. And there was a lot of drum fills that were missed that, you'd hear on the recording that he wasn't playing, he was still playing on the cymbal. But Keith Moon was, one of the craziest drummers, one of the wildest drummers that when you would see him play, a lot of his bombastic fills were just like all over the place. He would just hit everything in sight. And it just looked amazing when you see him doing it. Again, nobody could duplicate the way he played those fills and patterns, to the T, like the way he did them. Okay, here's a little demonstration how Keith Moon would have played on some of the shows. And another thing that I found out about Keith Moon was that for a while he was using a whole drum set without any hi-hat cymbals, and that's why you would see him playing a lot on crashes and even the ride cymbal, and pretty much bigger cymbals he was using most of the time. You never see them hardly ever. In the early days, you see them have a hi-hat and maybe like a 4-piece or a 5-piece kit. But then other than that, it was just strictly, later on, double bass, had the cymbals, and he would just kind of play on them like this. Again, kind of pointing the finger if he was playing live on TV, because like I said, he had to bring the volume down. So that was one of the neat traits of Keith Moon too. And last but not least, but I'm not doing this on this drum set, was Keith Moon after the show, or after a song, or after the end of the show, he would just kick over the drum set, throw the cymbals and stands, and just take everything and just destroy the whole kit. And for a while, The Who was doing that for shock value. They really, thought it was really cool to show that off. Then later on, everybody expected them to do that. And after a while, The Who just didn't want to do it anymore when it was expected of them. So they felt like they would just kind of stop doing it. Occasionally, they would, destroy a guitar or two or an amp, and maybe a small drum set or something like that. But usually, they stopped doing it after a while when it became too common for them. So anyway, again, The Who did it. Like I said, they were the first ones to ever do that, as far as I know, wreck their instruments on stage after the show. So, but that was one of the cool traits about Keith Moon. Okay, the next drummer we're going to be talking about is Ginger Baker from the band Cream, who was in the band with, of course, Eric Clapton and, of course, the late, great Jack Bruce, who just passed away recently. Anyway, Ginger Baker was a red-haired guy, frizzy red hair, really tall, 6-something, and long arms, long legs, and when he played, he just kind of hovered over the drum set. He was just really big, real tall. And one of the things that I always noticed about him when he played, he took patterns like a drummer would normally do with one bass drum, and he would separate it into two. So he might go like, and he might do it like this. He might have the hi-hats kind of just sizzling like that, and have the left bass come in, and you got stuff like... So that was one of the things that I always thought was really cool about Ginger Baker, was he would take those patterns and just add them to the bass drum. One of the other cool traits about Ginger Baker was he was very good at orchestrating the drums and the cymbals in a song. He knew where to put them, where they fit best, and sometimes where they didn't fit best, and leave stuff out, and the space that he would leave. And I always liked that during like White Room. Where if you notice the whole first part of the song, he starts off there, I was going for the crash and I hit a crash there. He doesn't hit a crash until almost at the end of the verse towards the chorus. And that's what I thought was really cool about this. And I was listening to it one day, and because I was explaining some things to my drum student about this song, and I noticed that there was no crashes. I'm going, something's missing. What is it? What's missing? And it was crash cymbals. So when he would do that, that last part again, I'm going to show it to you the way he would play. He would be like... that. There could have been so many crashes in there at the end of each fill, but he goes right back to the hi-hat and just kind of cuts all that out. And the reason why, if you listen to it carefully, there's so much melody going on with the vocals and with the guitar and the bass. And I think if he thought this, if this is, you know, the way I was thinking, the way he is, the crashes kind of take away from the melody that's going on there, so he wanted that to keep quiet, and he went right back to the hi-hat. And again, kept that kind of all tight together and more of a pattern instead of a big fill at the end with some crashes and stuff. So he kept that really, you know, really neat. I like the way he did that. So anyway, that's one of the cool traits, again, about Ginger Baker. And again, he sometimes had this, like I said, this really wild style of playing too, and he loved incorporating rudiments into drum solos and into his playing style too. He would take the bass drums playing right, left, and then play a paradiddle on top of that, say with the ride cymbal. So you'd get faster would be like, and that's kind of really neat how he would incorporate those rudiments into there. Which brings me to another video that I'm going to probably be doing later on, is showing you some rudiments and how to apply them to the drum set. So we're going to do that as well, coming up very shortly. But let's go to the other drum set and let's talk about Mitch Mitchell. Here we go. Okay, and right now on the Bonham set, the Led Zeppelin set, I'm going to kind of demonstrate. I know that this sounds like a Bonham set. It's not how Mitch Mitchell had his drum set tuned. He did at one time have some drums that were about this size, but they weren't acrylic, they weren't the Vista lights. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate some of the way he played. Remember, Mitch Mitchell was a jazz drummer, so a lot of his chops, you know, he would play traditionally. Sometimes you'll see him play traditionally. Sometimes I've seen him play, you know, match grip as well. But he did play traditionally in the early days, at least when they first got popular. So a lot of times he would be doing things like, you know, here's one of the examples. He's, you know, let's do something like a Purple Haze. You know, you think he'd start off like this. Mitch Mitchell would play with the traditional way. If you listen to the actual recording of Purple Haze, even myself, I'm guilty of this too, when I play with the band, you know, we'll start out, you know, I mean, we can do it that way. Nobody says, you know, you'd have to play it a certain way. But I just noticed something, that he wasn't riding on any of the cymbals. He was actually doing everything on the snare drum. So if you go back, listen to the track again, listen to how he starts it off. Obviously, you know, he's doing that right. You know. of those the way I'm playing there is similar to the way he played, and that was just one of the beautiful things about Mitch Mitchell when he played drums. Again, very jazz oriented, a lot of triplets. He always played triplets when he did fills, you know, and that. And he would also get really into it too, you know, be like. Mitch Mitchell's style of playing. I thought that was really cool. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to talk about today with Mitch Mitchell is triplets around the drums. Now, Bonham did triplets. Obviously, he did them with the foot, you know, doing the. Mitch Mitchell liked to do things with his hands, so he would do a triplet, maybe something similar to this. One of the cool things that I really thought was neat. The other thing too is he would do these buzz rolls and again, that's some of the cool things that he did and incorporated that stuff into Jimmy's playing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this segment about talking about different traits that drummers have. Maybe I'll do some more in the future. I haven't decided yet. But again, I will be talking the next couple videos here probably pretty soon. Talking about rudiments and how to apply them to the drum set, just like our drum heroes here have done today. So again, I hope you like this. Again, don't forget to subscribe to me, and again, like this video, and I will talk to you guys again real soon. Until then, you guys take care, keep rocking, have a good one.